Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, an attempt by the United States to pass a resolution at the United Nations General Assembly which sought to condemn the Islamist Hamas for its indiscriminate rocket fire towards Israel's civilian communities had failed to attain the necessary two-thirds majority of the members of the Assembly. The Islamist Hamas organization is scheduled to receive the second out of 6 rounds of Qatari funds to the Gaza Strip. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declares that ongoing efforts by Hezbollah and its patron Iran to acquire thousands of precision-guided missiles in Lebanon have failed thanks to the ongoing efforts by Israel's defense establishment. An attempt by the United States to pass a resolution at the United Nations General Assembly which sought to condemn the Islamist Hamas organization for its indiscriminate rocket fire from the Gaza Strip toward Israel's civilian communities had failed. While a majority of the world body's General Assembly voted in favor, the draft resolution did not receive the necessary two-thirds majority. A total of 87 countries supported the draft resolution, whom included, among others, all EU member states. While initially 33 countries abstained, Afghanistan requested to change its vote, raising the number of member states opposing the draft resolution from 57 to 58. Among the countries voting against the resolution were Russia and China, whom do not recognize Hamas as a terrorist entity. Meanwhile, the United States ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, pointed to the ridiculous fact that the United Nations had condemned Israel more than 500 times over the years, yet it had never condemned the Islamist Hamas. She added that there is nothing more anti-Semitic than to say that terror is not terrorism when it is employed against a Jewish state, while underscoring that peace between Israel and the Palestinians could not be advocated for unless the international community unites in condemning Hamas.
Before the General Assembly can credibly advocate compromise and reconciliation between the Palestinians and Israel, it must be on record unambiguously and unconditionally condemning Hamas terrorism.
While Israel accused countries that voted against the draft resolution as shamelessly applying political moves of procedure to hijack the vote, Jerusalem's ambassador to the United Nations asserted that a majority of the world body voiced a strong and courageous position, which has in effect brought Hamas to justice. In response to the vote, the Palestinian envoy to the world body accused Washington of exploiting the issues of terror while claiming that the draft resolution was a cynical attempt to name and shame in a biased and flagrant manner the Palestinian people. That said, the Palestinian envoy, who represents the West Bank Authority of the Palestinians that is embroiled in a bloody rivalry with Hamas, refrained from voicing support for the Islamist group. In contrast to the Palestinian envoy, the most vocal supporter of the internationally recognized terror group was the Islamic Republic of Iran, which declared Hamas as a legitimate resistance movement that fights for the liberation of its territory, while emphasizing that all means necessary to expel Israel, which he referred to as a foreign invader, was legitimate under international law.
We recognize Hamas as a legitimate resistance movement fighting for the liberation of Palestinian territory from foreign occupation. Hamas is a part and parcel of the Palestinian people and defends the Palestinian civilians against Israeli military aggression. By any measures, this is an inherent legitimate right under international law.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the countries that supported the draft resolution. The Israeli leader underlined in a statement that while the necessary two-thirds majority was not obtained, this was the first time that the majority of countries has voted against Hamas. Now to another matter, Hamas is scheduled to receive the second out of 6 rounds of Qatari funds to the Gaza Strip. The money will be earmarked to pay the salaries of civilian Hamas employees and to send stipends to about 50,000 families in need. Qatar committed to send about $50 million within half a year for this purpose. As part of the arrangement between Jerusalem and Doha authorities, Israel disqualified the names of about 5,000 Hamas civilian employees, and anyone who is eligible for money will receive from $100 to $1,200. Meanwhile, Qatari envoy Mohammed El-Emadi entered the Gaza Strip last night and met with Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh at his home in the neighborhood of Shati, during which they discussed the transfer of the Qatari pledged funds. Following the meeting, a Hamas source revealed to TV7 that the Palestinian Authority had refused to take part in transferring the funds to the Gaza Strip, and alternative arrangements to fulfill the Qatari pledge were discussed through Egyptian mediation. Now, with regard to the developments on Israel's northern frontier with Lebanon, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, confirmed the existence of a cross-border attack tunnel next to the Israeli city of Metula, dubbing the revelation as a grave development. UNIFIL's command underscored that the force has maintained contact with both sides and that it would pass on its findings to the authorities in Lebanon. The commander of UNIFIL, Major General Stefano Del Col, toured the area with the commanding officer of the IDF's Northern Command, Major General Yoel Strik, who demanded that the Lebanese army and UNIFIL neutralize a tunnel that was dug on the Lebanese side of the border and penetrated the Jewish state. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that ongoing efforts by Hezbollah and its patron Iran to acquire thousands of precision-guided missiles in Lebanon have failed, thanks to the ongoing efforts of Israel's defense establishment. During a special ceremony at the president's residence in Jerusalem for exemplary Mossad agents, the prime minister underscored that the Jewish state will continue to apply all means necessary to safeguard Israel's national security interests.
בצפון, מול חיזבאללה, יש להם שני כלים. כלי אחד המנהרות, אנחנו שוללים אותו. יש כלי שני. הכלי השני הוא הנשק, נשק הרקטות, כמובן אתם מכירים את הנשק הסטטיסטי, אבל מה שהם באמת רוצים זה נשק מדויק שמאפשר להם לפגוע בחדר הזה ברדיוס של 10 מטר. זה כמובן משנה את מאזן הכוחות באופן קיצוני. לפי התוכנית של חיזבאללה, הם היו אמורים להיות מצוידים היום באלפים של טילים מדויקים כאלה, וברגע זה יש להם כמה עשרות בודדות. הסיבה שיש להם כמה עשרות בודדות, בין השאר יושבת בחדר הזה, זה שילוב הכוחות של המוסד, צה"ל וכל מערך הביטחון שלנו. אנחנו שוללים מהן, לא בצורה מוחלטת, אבל בצורה מרשימה מאוד, גם את הנשק הזה.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump announced during a candle-lighting ceremony for the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah that the United States under his administration will always stand with the State of Israel. The American leader further stressed that the United States would continue to protect its ally, especially against the Islamic Republic of Iran that has unabatedly called for the death of both America and Israel and threatened the Jewish state time and again with annihilation.
We have left the horrible Iran nuclear deal and imposed. It was a horrible, horrible deal. Should have never been made. And imposed the toughest ever sanctioned. We sanctioned Iran like, I guess, few have ever been sanctioned before. We must never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon or a nuclear bomb. We cannot let the world's leading sponsor of terror, a regime that chants death to America and threatens Israel all of the time with annihilation and constantly screams out death to Israel, to possess the deadliest weapon on earth. We will not allow that to happen.
The White House Hanukkah celebration came exactly 1 year after President Donald Trump officially announced the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel, a decision the American ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, referred to earlier in the day as the most significant political victory to the State of Israel since its establishment in 1948. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov and Shabbat Shalom. And we will see you again on Monday at the same time.